Hi, everybody, and welcome to DocTalk. I'm Dr. Erin Knopf,
I'm Dr. Corinne Hannan. Welcome back.
and today is part 3 and our final part of media literacy. Let's do it.
Yes, part 3 of media literacy. Today, we're going to dip into kind of the history of our beauty standards and what we think about women's bodies and where does that come from and why does it change so often and how often does it change? So we call this media literacy through the ages. And as usual, we want to issue a content warning. So we're going to be watching media and seeing images of women's bodies and men's bodies, and talking about bodies in ways that can be difficult or triggering. So really take care of yourself, check in with your team. If now's not the right time, please save this for later or save this for when you have support. None of the images you'll see aren't things that you could see in public, like media or TV or print media or social media. But to talk about media, we have to show you media. So just make sure you take care of yourself. Okay, should we dig in?
Yes, let's do it.
Okay, so the first video that I'm going to show today is called Women's Ideal Body Types Throughout History. And I really, really love this clip, and we're going to discuss it after we watch it. And something really fun about how Dr. Knopf and I are doing this is that I've seen these clips many times, but this is new to Dr. Knopf. So she gets to have kind of her first reaction to it, and then we can kind of discuss. Now, as we're sharing these video clips, music doesn't tend to come through very well. This clip has just got music in the background. So if you don't hear anything, it's okay. We're just going to be looking at the images and the dancing and the print media on the video. Okay. I'll do my best to share the sound, but it just doesn't seem to be working very well with when it's just music. All right, here we go. I'll turn it up as high as I can.
So ancient Egypt, slender, narrow shoulders, high waist, symmetrical face, for those that might have a problem reading it. Ancient Greece, 500 to 300 BC. We see plump, full-bodied, light skin. Women were considered disfigured versions of men. The Han Dynasty in 206 BC to, I couldn't see the rest. Slim waist, pale skin, large eyes, small feet. Remember, foot binding was a thing that people did for beauty. To what end? Italian Renaissance, 1400 to 1700 in the Common Era. Ample bosom, rounded stomach, full hip, and fair skin. This is definitely giving Venus vibes. Victorian England, 1837 to 1901. Desirably full figured, cinched waist and plump. Women wore corsets to achieve the ideal body shape. I also think of all the pounds of fabric they were wearing over that. Roaring 20s, 1920, obviously. Flat-chested, downplayed waist, short bob hairstyle, boyish figure. Honestly, how did anyone transition from the Victorian era to that? Golden age of Hollywood, 1930s to 1950s. Oh, hey, Meryl. Curvy, hourglass figure, larger breasts, and slim waist. Bit of a pendulum. Oh gosh, now we're back to the other side of the pendulum. Swinging 60s. Ay, ay, ay. Willowy, thin, long, slim legs, and adolescent physique, aka undeveloped, suppressed. Supermodel era, 1960s. Or am I reading that right? Athletic, svelte but curvy, tall. I can't read the bottom one. Toned arms. There we go. Heroin chic, 1990s. Woof. Wayfish, extremely thin, translucent skin, androgynous. Seriously, are we seeing this pattern of like back and forth between full-bodied, not full-bodied, postmodern beauty today? Flat stomach, healthy, skinny, large breast and butt, thigh gap. Women regularly get plastic surgery to achieve their desired look, meaning it's not part of the natural form of woman?
Yeah, so I think what sticks out the most, right, is how this pendulum just swings around in sometimes not super quick, but sometimes a relatively short period of time, especially when we come to the 1900s, right? Like within a decade, this pendulum is swinging from that supermodel athletic build. I remember working out to Cindy Crawford videos, right? And then switching to like the Kate Moss heroin chic, switching to the Kate Kardashian, like Brazilian butt lift, giant breasts, right? And I hear it's switching back now to like really, really thin again. And it's just so, it was really helpful to me to kind of see this illuminated in a way that's like this just it's just like a constantly changing narrative of what's beautiful and what's desirable, and it's actually kind of hard to keep up. What was your reaction to it?
I think you nailed it. If anything, this is creating this artificial scarcity construct around you're only beautiful if
Mhm.
versus you are beautiful always. And it
Mhm.
just depends on what everyone else is trying to define for you. Because no question, we know women exist today looking like all of those models that we're demonstrating the different.
Sure. In nature, right?
That's nature. Exactly. We're supposed to have size diversity. I mean, look, I'm all for like bell bottoms coming in and out, but don't demand that someone interfere with their body in a real way and also promise that it would be permanent because that's another thing we know is not true from everything we know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that just doesn't, that's not the same. Fashion can change back and forth. You shouldn't be asked to wish for your body to change with the changing times so dramatically and so artificially and so impossibly.
Yeah, basically all it guarantees is like constant dissatisfaction. And if you're constantly dissatisfied with your body, we've talked about this, you're a really good consumer, because people
Yeah.
who have body satisfaction and a stable body image and a good relationship with their body, they don't buy as much stuff. I can't, maybe we will fall prey to the fashion changes and buy, skinny jeans and then bell-bottom jeans. But if we but we're less
Yeah.
like buy plastic surgery. We're less likely to buy beauty products, hair products, eyelashes, eyebrows, skin whiteners, skin bronzers, skin smoothers, cryo, whatever situations and liposuction, et cetera, if we feel more stable inside ourselves and we're not swayed as easily or as often as the trends change regarding what is beautiful. Like who decides
Totally.
what's beautiful? Who says?
Right. Well, if anything, isn't it interesting how much emphasis is right now, at least in this one video, on the female beauty? I would be curious if there exists anything about male beauty. And if anything, I would imagine it's been pretty consistent through all walks of life. I don't think men have the same demands to be so different between different periods of time. And also naming that still the expectation for male beauty is still often impossible to achieve based off of biodiversity. You know, this overly svelte man with a low percent body fat. I mean, that's not real life either.
Like the superhero
Yeah.
hypermuscularity. But what's interesting, Dr. Knopf, and I'll just speak about this really briefly, is that historically men have not been objectified and subject to the same amount of scrutiny, but that has been changing. And that meaning like there's more equality now, but it's not the kind of equality we wanted, where both sexes are now receiving pretty much equal amounts of objectification and oppression. I
Yeah.
just did a video on my social media lately about the dangers of like the superhero male physique and little boys being influenced by that, and that superhero
Totally.
actors, when they prepare for their one shirtless scene, they're preparing three, like they already have to be in like insanely good shape that they're probably genetically predisposed to. Then they have to work for 3 months intensely with a trainer, and then they dehydrate for 3 days prior to the scene. And so little boys see this physique and think, oh, this is attainable, this is normal. Henry Cavill, when he was filming Superman, he said he was so dehydrated he could smell water. And they'll say, like, don't try this at home, this isn't safe. And yet they're promoting these images to look to vulnerable young people who think that this is somehow desirable and ideal. It's very dangerous, and it's just not realistic for the overwhelming majority of folks, right?
Yeah. It's
So,
again putting
go
your health at risk in order to have a certain physical appearance, which I mean, just that alone, what you were describing is like those poor kidneys of these actors and actresses.
Just so they can get those veins popping, you know? Let me show a video. This is another Dove video about how this starts to affect children. And it's 1 minute long. I'm going to turn it right up.
I wish I had straight hair.
Blonde hair would be nice.
I would love to have freckles. They can make people just look really cute. I wish I was taller.
I wish I was shorter. I'm very tall for my age, and I feel really like lanky and like really tall and awkward.
I wish I was thinner.
I wish I was stronger to play like more sports and like be involved in more things. I would like to have lighter skin. It looks, oh my God, this is so difficult. I'm sorry.
I would like to have darker skin. I have really pale skin, so it'll stick out. Sometimes I wish I had blue eyes. Blue eyes would be nice. I'd like to have smaller breasts. I was the first girl in my class to get a bra. Just kind of want to fit in.
I think that I'd like to have curly hair.
I wish I had straight hair.
Mm. What's so interesting too, the comment of "I wish I had freckles, they're cute." I know, so many girls who said, "I hate my freckles, I wish I didn't have them." So it really is such an interesting thing that we're all, I think, prey to, of constantly thinking the grass is greener or things would be better if, when really we all carry traits that someone else wishes they would have. I still say I haven't had my growth spurt that I was supposed to have in my teenage years. And
For you, because I'm really tall.
exactly. So yeah, you guys can't tell from us sitting, but I'm I say 5'3", I'm really 5'2", 3/4. And Dr. Hannan, how tall are you again?
6'1". Yeah.
Yeah. So how many times did you wish to be shorter?
Oh, every day. I used to fantasize about it every day of my life, right?
Yeah. And I wish to be taller. So yeah. Why did we feel that way?
Because we can see this even historically, that we've been taught that we should be thirsting for, in pursuit of anything other than what we are. We have
Ugh.
not spent enough time teaching women, teaching girls and teaching boys and teaching folks that how they are is just great. And that there are so many things to be interested in and learn and pursue that have nothing to do with the appearance of your body. The reason I love that clip is it's so easy to see how every single one of those little girls is so adorable and perfect and lovely, just as they are. And they can so easily come up with something that they would change about themselves. And it's easy for me to say, I don't want to change one thing about you. But when I was that age, I would have changed my height in a millisecond. I used to
Yeah.
fantasize about, like, is there a way I can like take a section out of my legs and just shorten them so that I'm not so tall and get so much attention? I mean, it makes me laugh now, but it was really painful.
I mean, there are people that pursue procedures to do stuff like that. So that's why it's not so unimaginable. What is so hard though is people don't really think about what is the outcome? What is the repercussion of these interventions? This is not without huge risks. Doing anything, especially under the knife. I mean, you're talking about not only superficial nerve interruption and damage there, where you can either have no sensitivity to any touch, or you have hypersensitivity and everything hurts. Those are the most common outcomes of any procedure. Anyone who tells you, "Oh, I went under the knife and I had no nerve damage," like, no, I don't believe you. I don't believe you. It's impossible.
So like something even less severe or significant, at least in theory, than going under the knife is people using like creams and lotions. But there's this incredible article that we don't have time to show today about all the harm being caused to people in India who are using skin whiteners, and they have an allergic reaction, they grow hair, and then they become unable to function without using the cream because they get so itchy and reactive without it. And it causes patchiness and hypopigmentation and hyperpigmentation, hair growth, like rashes. So everything comes with a risk and a side effect, but you're not told that. You're told that you'll be accepted and you're loved if you just change one thing about yourself.
You're creating disease just to change something about your body, which, weird. That's what we talk about all the time. Okay, let's talk about the Fiji study, because I think it's important to really drive this home that our impressions are taught to us, are implied explicitly and implicitly. Oh, that's the same. They're you know what I'm saying. So the Fiji study by Dr. Ann Becker, she's a physician and a PhD and worked in public health with Harvard. She actually did an incredible study where they went to Fiji, and you may have heard this, at least the water, right? This is actually a beautiful island, and it was one of the last countries to get broadcast television, and they didn't get it till the mid 1990s. So this created this opportunity to really assess, how does Western media influence us and other populations? So let's go ahead into our time capsule, especially for those people who were not alive in the mid 1990s. What was on at the time? We're talking Baywatch with Pamela Anderson, Xena, Warrior Princess. I would say Saved by the Bell and Fresh Prince of Bel-Air too, also on, great shows. So anyways, with the introduction of television, they had a perspective two cohort study, meaning they had two groups of people with matching demographics, and they did study girls only. So I would be very interested to know what happened to boys. But they monitored for attitude changes and behavioral changes, and especially they wanted to zoom in on intentional purging, because this was objectively a pathological behavior across all cultures. So that can really eliminate some of the other confounding variables. And sure enough, after the introduction of Western media, they saw an increase in intentional purging in these young girls, where previously there weren't vocabulary words. Yeah,
What
there was no such thing as intentional weight loss. Sorry, I think my sound cut out your sound.
is that there was not even the language for it because it did not exist in this community. And they interviewed tribes, they interviewed families, they interviewed medicine people, and this didn't exist prior to the induction of Western television.
Which means there's this glamorification, is that a word? Glamorizing of what you see and what's being presented to you as, wow, they're so wonderful and amazing. And now I want to be like that. This is such a hijacking of our dopamine, y'all, to really live in this alternate reality versus being true to our values and what is our reality. Yeah, it's so ugh, cringy.
Such a hallmark study because it's universally hard to separate out variables and really kind of get at causation. And this was such a unique situation where they really were able to do pre and post tests with the induction of this cultural element. That's what's so interesting about eating disorders and body image issues, is they do have a very strong cultural component, which is now ubiquitous. You can't even eliminate the cultural component because it's right here, right? All day, every day, in everyone's face, all over the world, or just television. And so it would have been hard to like derive conclusions, but we can derive conclusions, and very, very strong conclusions from this study, because they were able to do pre and post testing. So it's really, really powerful to think how Western media, imagery, messaging, ideology affects people's relationship with their bodies, affects people's relationship with their identity and self-esteem. So the Fiji study was a real hallmark, and I'm about to show a video that CNN made that is called What is Beauty? And I think it does a really beautiful, this one's also music only, so if you can't hear anything, it's okay. It's showing how imagery has changed from the beginning of when women's bodies began to be sculpted to this being part of how we perceive each other. And let's discuss that after we watch it. Sorry, just 1 second here. There we go. Okay.
What is beauty? Look how often its definition changes. Reflect on the ideals imposed upon us and how fast they evolve. Because there is no standard template for beauty. So let us celebrate the diversity of the female form.
All right, what do you think?
I mean, my inner feminist is just like ready to burn my bra right now. I mean, seriously, it's just so unfair and unnecessary. Imagine the energy and time and focus and concentration and money that is siphoned away from real productive values-based experiences as humans. And we're all doing it, whether we want to admit it or not, whether you and I, even in this field, being as conscientious as we still are prey to this.
We're swimming in the same ocean, the
We
same
are.
oceanification. We are
Yeah,
every
I
day.
mean, everyone, you have to know, before we even started today, I admitted to Dr. Hannan, oh my gosh, it's like dawning on me the influence my children's Disney movies have been in such a different way. And granted, we were doing all of like the female heroine stories, Brave and Moana, and about sisters with Frozen, but oh my gosh, yeah, like that's not first of all, those are all animated. So I do make sure to talk about that with my kids. This is animated. This isn't real life. Noah Bear is not gonna share grapes with you or blueberries with you like it does in Brave. That won't happen. Mommy can't turn into a bear. We're okay. But this is what they see. And even now, my 3-year-old came down the stairs the other day and she said, look at me, I'm beautiful because I'm in a dress. And I said, you're beautiful no matter what you're wearing.
Mhm.
And like that, oh,
Yeah, like even The Lion King, which came out when I was a senior in high school, like Nala has these like really extreme eyelashes, and it's like, is that femininity? Is that beauty? Is that seduction? And I don't mean to villainize everything
no.
of beauty and attractiveness and the creativity involved in that, and just the humanity in what we find attractive. But I think it becomes really important that we pay attention to how often it changes. I love that CNN video, right? Because you can see how how amorphous, and often it's breasts and butts. Like everybody has them, and but it can be different shapes, different sizes, different representations through art, through culture. There were so many noteworthy and like really monumental images showed in there that I was like, oh, there's Madonna, there's Kim Kardashian, right? Like that, whether we want to or not. I'll just be really honest, I really am uninterested in the Kardashians, but because I'm a white woman in 2024, currently living in the United States of America, I am bombarded with images and information about them. They're like American royalty right now. And I don't even know why they're famous. I genuinely have tried really hard, but I saw her image in there, right? Like this is culture and this is how we're being affected. And the only kind of chance we have right now, because I do think media is getting better slowly but surely. Like we were talking about how Disney movies now center different kinds of relationships, different kinds of heroines. And I think more body diversity is starting to show up in popular media. It's just not happening fast enough. And so that leaves us with our final point, which is what can we do differently moving forward? And I truly believe in the ripple effect, that if every one of us affects the people around us, like Dr. Knopf trying to teach her daughters differently about bodies and what it means to be a woman and what beauty means and how it's so individual and unique. One of the things that we have to do is systematically reverse and undo and recognize fat phobia inside of ourselves. And there's a really beautiful TED Talk by Kelly Jean Drinkwater that's 12 minutes long. And we're only going to show the first minute and a half to just introduce this TED Talk to you. And I think it is so well worth your time. The link will be in our, where is the link going to be?
I put it on the community. So it's here on the community about the event itself.
Awesome. And please do yourself a favor and watch it. And let's just watch the intro to it and reflect on how we can really make a difference both in ourselves and upcoming generations and media representation and media literacy if we obliterate and undo fat phobia.
I'm here today to talk to you about a very powerful little word, one that people will do almost anything to avoid becoming. Billion-dollar industries thrive because of the fear of it. And those of us who undeniably are it are left to navigate a relentless storm surrounding it. I'm not sure if any of you have noticed, but I'm fat. Not the lowercase muttered behind my back kind, or the seemingly harmless chubby or cuddly. I'm not even the more sophisticated, voluptuous or curvaceous kind. Let's not sugarcoat it. I am the capital F-A-T kind of fat. I am the elephant in the room. When I walked out on stage, some of you may have been thinking, oh, this is going to be hilarious, because everybody knows that fat people are funny. Or you may have been thinking, where does she get her confidence from? Because a confident fat woman is almost unthinkable. The fashion-conscious members of the audience may have been thinking how fabulous I look in this Beth Ditto dress. Thank you very much. Where some of you might have thought, oh, black would have been so much more slimming. You may have wondered, consciously or not, if I have diabetes or a partner, or if I eat carbs after 7 p.m. You may have worried that you ate carbs after 7 p.m. last night and that you really should renew your gym membership. These judgments are insidious. They can be directed at individuals and groups, and they can also be directed at ourselves. And this way of thinking is known as fat phobia.
Okay. So there's an intro to her beautiful, brilliant 12-minute TED Talk segment. Maybe some of you were already aware of some of the things that you might think when you see diverse body sizes in the wild, but I think she does such a beautiful job of speaking about it, you know, assertively, directly, overtly, and then so that's how we can begin to improve and uproot the fat phobia that's been implanted in us because of the media that we've been bombarded with our whole lives. We're all swimming in this fat phobia and objectification and the pursuit of these like ever-changing beauty ideals.
Well said. And just remember too, there's a reason these maxims exist, that beauty is not skin deep. Beauty is in your personality, your connections, your purpose, your contributions to the world. That is what truly creates and not just creates, but makes enduring beauty, truly. So we hope after watching these three media literacy, go ahead.
I was going to say the other person that we highly recommend reading and following and listening to is Aubrey Gordon. She's one of the most powerful voices about fat phobia and all the myths and the problematic ways people think about fat bodies. But I also just want to say that, you know, beauty is, yeah, like you said, it's mysterious, it's nebulous, it's in the eye of the beholder, it's not skin deep. But I also think there's so much more powerful and important and interesting things than beauty, right?
Oh, like, totally. Yeah.
Like, that's what I try to remind my clients and my family and my friends about all the time, that especially as women, but men too, we've been socialized to think that how we look is the most important thing about us. What if it's the least interesting thing about us? What if our hobbies, our interests, our passions, our goals, our adventures, our values, our connection, our humor, there's so many things what we want to cook, what we want to learn, what we want to earn. There's so many more interesting things for us to get empowered about. And we can only do that if we start here with media literacy and realizing how we're influenced and what we do and don't want to focus on.
I got nothing else. Mic drop. Thank you for joining us. I'm Dr. Erin Knopf.
I'm Dr. Corinne Hannan. Thanks for joining us for all 3 parts of media literacy. We'll see you next time.